Just when everyone thought the tension between the two reality stars couldn't get any worse, young Jock made a shocking accusation that is shattering the foundations of their friendship. Fans are in shock that young Jock is claiming Rasheeda is pregnant and that the father isn't her husband but Mendeecees himself. Young Jock was arrested for making false pregnancy accusations about Rasheeda. Hold on, this story gets even more bizarre. These accusations have started a series of events that could cost Jay everything. The police are involved and Rasheeda's reputation is at stake. What began as a heated argument has now descended into a full-scale conflict. Everyone is wondering how long this explosive drama will last, because this is just the beginning of what could be the biggest scandal in reality TV history. The night began like any other, with dim lights, laughter, and casual conversation. Rasheeda was there as usual, charming everyone with her usual grace, but something in the air changed the moment she saw Jock's expression. She knew something was wrong. Something was coming that she wasn't prepared for, and then that night everything changed when young Jock walked into the room, his face tight with anger, his eyes burning with an accusation that no one saw coming. Then, without warning, Jock stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "You think I'm blind?" he snapped, barely containing the Rasheeda froze, her eyes darting around the room, searching for something to anchor her in that moment. She had been caught off guard before, but this time it was different. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice shaking despite her attempts to remain composed. Instead of waiting for her answer, the Jock pointed at her with his finger, accusing her even more sharply. "You think I'm a fool, huh? You, Mendeecees, see you think I don't know? You think I don't know you're pregnant with his child?" The room went silent, the air thickened, and everyone was watching them, waiting. The tension was palpable. Rasheeda's heart raced, her mind spinning with disbelief. How could Jock say something like that? How could he even suggest such a thing? She was about to respond, to laugh it off, to defend herself, but Jock wasn't done. "Think I can't see through your little games? The entire world can see it, and everyone can see it." Rasheeda felt her breath catch in her throat as she said the accusations, which were like a knife cutting through everything she had worked for and everything she had built. How could he be so certain? How could he be so bold in making such a claim without any proof? "I don't know what you're talking about," she said at the end, her voice strained but steady. "This is an insane joke. You've gone crazy." But Jock persisted. "You're pregnant, Rasheeda, and you can't hide it any longer." She had been with Kirk for years, and although there had been ups and downs, Mendeecees was a line she never imagined crossing. Jock's words, however, are still reverberating in her mind, his voice cutting through the confusion. "Don't act like I'm stupid. I know what I saw, I know what's going on, and you can't avoid it." She started to defend herself and explain that Jock was wrong, but before she could finish, something inside of her exploded. She felt the frustration of being cornered and accused of something she hadn't done. "Your insane joke," she finally yelled, her voice rising with the intensity of her emotion. "How dare you say that about me? How dare you make these accusations without any proof? You think you can just throw my life away because of your jealousy and insecurities?" Joke's eyes flashed with something dark and dangerous, "and you thought I was jealous. You think this is about jealousy. But Rasheeda, this is about the truth. You've been lying to everyone, and now is the time for everyone to know the truth. You can't hide behind your fame and your idyllic little world any longer." Rasheeda's hands shook with a mixture of fear and rage, and her heart pounded in her chest. She couldn't believe this was happening. Jock was beyond listening, his face twisted with anger. His jaw clenched so tight it looked like he was ready to explode. "I'm not wrong, Rasheeda. The world is about to find out what you've been hiding, and when they do, don't come crying to me the way you're supposed to." For one moment, it was all being torn apart by someone she thought of as a friend, someone who was supposed to have her back. "This isn't true. You're making a huge mistake." Everyone was holding their breath, waiting for Jock to make a move. But before anyone could react, he turned and stormed out of the room, leaving a trail of shock and disbelief in his wake. Rasheeda stood there, frozen in place, her mind racing, her emotions in turmoil, unable to believe what had just happened, the accusations that were now hanging in the air like a dark cloud, and the room slowly starting to fill with whispers and murmurs. Rasheeda turned to her closest friends, her voice shaking. "I can't believe he said. I can't believe he would accuse me of something like that." But everyone was silent, still processing the shock of what had just happened. They all knew that young Jock could be impulsive, but was something else, and there was no turning back. The next few hours were a blur. Rasheeda tried to contact Mendeecees, but he wasn't picking up the phone, and she tried to call Kirk, but he wasn't available either. It felt like everyone had abandoned her, leaving her alone in the middle of a sea of Rasheeda knew deep down that young Jock's words were going to destroy everything she had worked for. But she didn't realize they were. Only the beginning. The fallout from this night was going to ripple through her life in ways she couldn't yet comprehend, and soon the entire world would know the truth. The only thing she could do was sit in the silence of mind and try to process the shock, anger, and hurt that were now consuming her. It felt like her entire world was collapsing, and there was nothing she could do about it. She tried calling Mendeecees again, but his phone went straight to voicemail, and the unanswered calls were only adding to the confusion and dread. What did he think? Did he believe Joke's accusations? The weight of disbelief and the accusations of infidelity were the only things that hurt, but the public nature of it all, the fact that Jock had accused her of having a relationship with Mendeecees. She spent hours pacing her living room and staring out the window, watching the world go on without her. How could Jock do this? How could he so easily destroy everything they had built? He knew her. They had been through too much together, and they had shared too many late-night conversations and laughs for him to just turn on her like this. Raced as she tried to piece together what had gone wrong, everything had been fine. At least she thought it was. Humiliation, and now the silence from everyone she cared about, including Kirk, her husband, who hadn't called her either, and who hadn't been heard from since the night of the incident. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. Was the hardest part. She wanted to think that he would support her, but the silence was deafening. Was he out there listening to the rumors? Was he believing what Jock had said? She closed her eyes, trying to calm the storm inside of her, but all she could think about was the chaos Jock had unleashed. Her phone buzzed, and for a moment her heart skipped a beat, and she opened a message from an unknown number, hoping it was from Mendeecees. However, as the message loaded, she started to feel sick because it wasn't Mendeecees. Instead, it was a blurry video of her from that night's argument with the Joke playing on screen. The video was already going viral, and even though it was only a minute long, it was enough to cause serious harm because she could see the confrontation between her and Jock, the harsh words and the anger that had been in the air. The video ended before Jock's last words, but it was obvious what had happened. The world now had a front row seat to the most embarrassing moment of her life. Her private life was visible for everyone to see, evaluate, and analyze. She sat down on the couch, her hands shaking, and watched the video again, wondering how they could have done this to her, how someone could take her most private moment and make it into entertainment. She knew how the media operated and how people were fueled by scandal, but this was different. This was her life, family, her dignity. The video was all over, and now the comments were pouring in. Some were supporting her, but the majority were condemning her. The accusations and assumptions ranged from "she's lying" to "she must be hiding something" to "she looks guilty" and more. Yet it was only the beginning as the hours passed and Rasheeda was unable to escape the never-ending barrage of notifications from both fans and followers. She felt as though her phone was constantly buzzing, reminding her that her life was no longer hers. The guilt started to creep in like a dark cloud, and even though the accusations were completely unfounded, they felt like they were eroding her identity. Could Mendeecees have done something to lead Joe to believe the rumors? Had she misjudged their relationship? The questions were endless, and the answers were elusive, making Rasheeda unable to stay locked in. With a heavy heart and a confused mind, she grabbed her purse and headed to the one place she hoped would provide some clarity, Mendeecees' house. As she drove, her mind kept replaying the events of the previous. When she got to his house, she took a deep breath before knocking on the door, not knowing what to expect, but knowing that she couldn't do it alone. He was standing there, looking just as confused and hurt as she did. "Rasheeda." His voice was low and hesitant. "I don't know how to reach you. I need answers," she said, her voice tight with emotion. His involvement, even if it was just speculation, was tearing her apart. Now, the thought that their friendship could have resulted in this. Betrayal felt like a burden on her shoulders. "I know," he said softly. "I've seen the video, and I don't know what to say." Rasheeda's heart fell because he was acknowledging that he had seen the video, which only served to highlight how quickly things had gotten out of control. But as she heard him speak, she realized something she hadn't thought of before. "Did you say anything to him that would make him understand?" "No," he interjected, shaking his head and adding something like, "I don't know why he's saying these things. I don't know what his game is." For a little period, Rasheeda was unable to speak, her thoughts still racing, but something Mendeecees said made her feel a bit more at ease. "Then what now?" Her voice was hardly audible above a whisper as she asked, "How can I stop it? How can we solve this?" Mindy moved forward. Placing a hand on her shoulder, "We begin by ensuring that the truth is revealed because we cannot allow this lie to continue." However, even as he was saying it, Rasheeda knew that the truth might not be enough, because once something like this was out in the world, it was nearly impossible to undo the damage. All she could do was try to navigate the storm to prevent herself and her family from being torn apart by the fallout. She knew deep down that was just the beginning, and that the real battle was just beginning. The following few days felt like a waking nightmare for Rasheeda, as the shock of young Jock's experience was. The accusations hadn't subsided, and now every time she opened her phone, the world was there to remind her of the scandal, the video, the comments, the whispers. It was all consuming. Everywhere she went, people stared at her with judgment in their eyes. Even her closest friends appeared aloof, unsure of what to say or what to believe. But the most agonizing thing was that Rasheeda didn't respond. Her mind was racing with confusion, anger, and a deep sense of betrayal because she had spent years with him, building a relationship, life together. But after all of this, she felt as though she was left to fend for herself alone. The silence was more deafening than any accusation Jock could have made if he had thought Joke was the end of everything they had created. So she decided to confront him because she couldn't just sit in the dark any longer. She needed to hear it from him about where they stood and whether their marriage could withstand the storm that Jock had started. The air felt heavy as she drove to their house, the weight of what was approaching pressing down on her chest. She parked outside and stared at the house that used to feel like a haven, a place where she could always find peace. But now the sight of it made her stomach turn. She took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. Kirk answered. His face was a mix of exhaustion and something she couldn't quite place. He wasn't angry, but there was a distance in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Rasheeda," he said softly, his voice almost distant. "We need to talk." And she nodded as they entered the house and sat down in the living room. The tension was evident, and the silence between them felt like a vast and unyielding ocean. "I don't even know," she said. Rasheeda's voice broke as she said, "Where to start? Why haven't you called me? Why haven't you been here for me?" Kirk shifted uneasily, avoiding her gaze. "I've been trying to figure things out," Rasheeda said, his voice strained. "These are a lot of Jock's accusations. I didn't know what to think." Rasheeda's heart sank. "So you're doubting me after everything we've been through?" Kirk looked up at her. "I'm not accusing you of anything, Rasheeda, but this whole situation is a mess." "I need time to think," she said, adding with a hint of bitterness. "I don't know what to believe about you and Mendeecees." The words hit Rasheeda like a slap, and I couldn't help but wonder if there was any truth to what Jock said. Rasheeda's chest tightened as she fought back the tears. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. They were supposed to face everything together. They were supposed to be a team, but now it felt like they were on opposite sides of an unbridgeable gap. It's not that simple. There's so much going on, and I can't keep pretending like everything is fine when it feels like everything is falling apart. I don't know what the future holds for us. Instead of responding right away, he rubbed his face with his hands as if trying to gather his thoughts. "I want to believe you, Rasheeda, I really do. But this whole situation is a mess, and I can't just ignore what's being said." His words were barely audible. "I would never hurt you like that. Never, Perk." He looked at her, his eyes softening, but the doubt was still there, lingering in his gaze. Rasheeda stood up suddenly, the raw emotion bubbling. up from deep within her. "You want the truth?" "The truth is that I've been faithful to you. The truth is that I've never looked at men in that way, and I didn't want any of this to happen," Kirk finally said in a strained voice. "I never wanted to doubt you, Rasheeda, but joking." And she turned away, unable to look at him any longer. "The truth is that Jock has ruined everything because he's torn us apart, and you're sitting here questioning me instead of standing by my side." The words hit harder than she had anticipated, and for a moment there was silence between them. The air seemed thick with everything left unsaid. The accusations weren't the only thing weighing her down. It was also about the cracks in their relationship that had existed for longer than she wanted to acknowledge. "I don't know if we can fix this, Kirk," she said quietly, the pain in her voice obvious. "I don't know if I can keep living like this, wondering if you're ever going to believe me again." At first, Kirk remained silent and simply sat there, the tension between them almost palpable. "I don't want to lose you," he said after a long pause, "but I don't know how to move forward from here." The weight of the previous few days finally caught up with her, and she let the tears fall freely without even trying to stop them. He didn't seem surprised to see her, but there was an unspoken tension in the air. Mendeecees said, "Despite the turmoil inside of me, we need to talk." He moved aside to allow her to enter, and they sat down in the living room. The silence between them was thick and uncomfortable, and Rasheeda wasn't sure where to start. She said, "I need to know what's going on, with urgency. Why is Joke saying these things about me? Why is he accusing me of all this mendacity?" "I don't know, Rasheeda. I really don't. I've been trying to figure that out too. But he's been acting strangely. I've never seen him like this. Why would he say something so crazy? Why would he lie like that?" Mendeecees leaned forward, his face full of frustration. "I don't know, but I do know that there's more going on with him than just you and me. Something else is going on. He's been acting strangely for a while now. Perhaps he's jealous or he's just trying to stir things up. It's messed up." Rasheeda felt confused and hurt, but what could he possibly be jealous of? Mendeecees repeated himself in a confused tone, "But whatever it is, it's gotten into his head. He's been saying things to people that try to turn them against you and me, like there's something going on between us, but you and I both know that's not true." Rasheeda nodded slowly, her mind racing. She knew the truth, that there was nothing between her and Mendeecees, just friendship and respect for one another. But Jock wasn't worried about Mendeecees acknowledged, her voice cracking with emotion, that he was out to destroy her and everything she owned. He said, "You're not alone in this. I'm not going anywhere. We'll deal with Jock with everything together." He tried to reassure her, saying, "You're not alone in this. I'm not going anywhere. We'll deal with Jock with everything together." She looked at him, and for a brief moment she felt a flicker of hope, but that hope was her phone buzzed again, this time a news alert with a headline screaming across the screen. "Young Joke accuses Rasheeda of having an affair with Mendeecees. Police involved in an investigation." Rasheeda's heart fell. The situation had just escalated from a minor accusation to a full-fledged public spectacle, with the police involved. How could things get any worse? Men noticed her expression and leaned forward, asking, "What's wrong?" "Look at this," as she showed him the news alert. "Getting out of hand, the police are involved, and now Jacques has taken this to a whole new level." Mendeecees mutters obscenities. "This is crazy. We must stop this before it gets any worse." Rasheeda stared at the screen, feeling the weight of the situation weigh heavily on her. How had it gotten this far? How had Jacques managed to make her life a public spectacle? More importantly, what was his ultimate goal? Was he trying to destroy her? Was he destroying everything she had built? Rasheeda nodded slowly, but how do we fight back against a lie that has already gone viral? According to Mendeecees, who spoke, "With determination, we go to the media and tell our side of the story. We don't let Jacques dictate how ends. You deserve better than this." The idea of going public was terrifying, but she knew Mendeecees was right the longer they allowed the rumors to circulate. Rasheeda took a deep breath and decided that if they didn't take action, the lie would become the truth in the eyes of the public. Although she wasn't sure how to respond to someone who was willing to destroy everything for the sake of a lie or how much more she could take, she knew that she wasn't going down without a fight. The drama is far from over, and as the pieces continue to fall into place, the truth will eventually be revealed. But for now, young Jock's shocking accusations. We want to hear from you as the story progresses. Will young Jock get away with spreading lies, or will Rasheeda and Mindy's efforts to correct the record be enough to stop the damage? Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update on this explosive drawing. Have set off a chain of events that no one could have predicted. Rasheeda's reputation, her family, and everything she's worked for are on the line, and the fight for the truth is just getting started. How do you think Rasheeda can resolve this situation? What would you do if you were in her position? Please, share your thoughts in the comment section below. Stay tuned as this story is far from done, and we'll be providing you with the most recent information as the truth comes to light.